It's one of those weird breaking stories that some people will be unspeakably excited about and some people will be the absolute mother of all meh. But I'm somewhere between the two. A senior Conservative MP close to Kemi Badenoch says they had incontrovertible, one of my favourite words, as you know, evidence that Robert Jenrick was about to defect, including a full speech and media plan. So it's saying we keep a close eye on everyone. We have people everywhere, they tell the BBC, which sounds simultaneously sinister and comical, doesn't it? Like Kemi Badenoch's Stasi, keeping I suppose she did hack into Harriet Harman's House of Commons computer, didn't she? So maybe they are actually operating in a manner comparable to the East German secret police. And that's the word she used as well. Clear, irrefutable evidence that Robert Jenrick was planning to defect. Farage coming pretty close to confirming that it would be to his outfit, which isn't going to surprise anybody. It would be very much man bites dog territory if he had been planning to defect to the Greens or the Liberal Democrats. But it is only months since he secured 43.5% of the votes to Badenoch's 56.5% in the election to be the actual leader of the Conservative Party. I never know where the line is between ego and principle, but I suspect in Jenrick's case there isn't one. There is no principle. He's like Groucho Marx. I've got principles. If you don't like them, I've got others. He's changed everything, really, about his political DNA in the course of just 5 years in the public eye. It's only 10 minutes ago he'd sort of set himself up as the scourge of fare evaders, which you realise now was part of the racist narrative of hating London because it's such a multicultural success story. So anyway, there's the story. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick sacked from the Tory front bench, sacked from the Tory Party, whip removed, membership rescinded. Whether or not there'll be a by-election in Newark, I do not know, but I just want you to tell me what you think of this. It's my job to come up with the clever questions, and sometimes the news is too fresh to do so. But whether or not this is a nail in the coffin of the Conservative Party, because if they're hemorrhaging people who were running to be leader 10 minutes ago, they've got a particular flavour of problem. Or the problem I've got with this, actually, is that the only way the Tory Party survive is by doing away with all the racism. The only offer, I think about Tamara in Telford quite often. Do you remember Tamara in Telford? We're having what is a Tory? Reform and racism are so absolutely intertwined that for the Tories to still be on the racist platform, to still be saying hideous things about people's skin colour, or it was Jenrick who talked about Birmingham, wasn't it? And yet his own village where he lives, I think, according to the last census, had one person of colour in it. But he's incredibly spooked when he finds himself in a place where there are lots of people of colour. So for the Tories to still be there seems to me to be electorally ridiculous, given that Reform have got the racism vote sewn up. Absolutely copper bottom. Farage has been an infamous racist for his entire public career, right from the moment where the man who actually founded UKIP explained how freely and liberally Farage would use the N-word and talk about how they would never win the N-word vote. He might pretend these days that he isn't, but everybody knows that he is. And therefore, for the Tories to be in that space at all has seemed to me for a while to be a little bit ridiculous. Kemi Badenoch, as a black woman, was incredibly well placed to rebrand the Tories as the opposite of what Farage and Jenrick and Katie Lamb represent. But she's failed utterly to do that.
Firstly, your reaction to it coming through was pretty palpable over the radio. I thought I could hear it in your voice, the shock.
It's a big story.
Surprise, probably.
It's a big story, but is it a big deal, I suppose, is the question.
Is it a big deal? Well, I'm not Conservative by any shape or form. Kemi Badenoch is, well, she is what she is. But I think she's pulled a blinder, to be fair. She's gone the whole hog. He's lost everything by the looks of it, by the sound of it. And, you know, over to Farage with open arms, I think. Firstly, I agree completely with the last caller. I think that Kemi's done, although I'm not a Tory.
I'm not here to. I don't want to, rain on her chips. But what else could she do? And she's done it well. She's done it effectively, and she's taken us all by surprise. But it's not exactly a masterstroke. She could not really do anything else if the evidence is, as they say, irrefutable.
Yeah, otherwise Reform would have made a song and dance about it, and it would have been pushed further into extinction.
Nigel Farage has said Labour MPs are contacting Reform as well about defecting. Is that an open secret in your circles in Westminster?
Well, that's genuinely the first I've heard of that. Nigel Farage says an awful lot of things.
You don't believe a single Labour MP is...
I don't believe that a single Labour MP. We are absolutely determined to stave off and fight right-wing populism, which aims to divide our country and has no real interest in the meaningful change and delivering that meaningful change which will affect working people's lives. That's the Labour Party. That's why we're fighting for change in government, and that's why we're going to fight to win the next general election.
Obviously, he's right that Nigel Farage does say a lot of things, and we don't know how it's going to play out. There's a lot we don't know this afternoon about exactly how it's going to play out. As you say, we haven't heard from Robert Jenrick yet, and obviously he's facing sort of a little bit of a challenge to sort of figure out what he does next, right? So does he come out and say, yes, I was going to join Reform, or I am going to join Reform, if indeed that was true? Has this all been a big misunderstanding? Lots of people in the Conservative Party who I'm speaking to today are really hopeful that it is just that. However, obviously what the Conservatives are saying is that this is irrefutable evidence that Kemi Badenoch has been handed. There's a chat that it was a resignation letter that was found from Robert Jenrick, and that does raise eyebrows, let's be honest, because I think Robert Jenrick is seen in the Conservative Party as a bit of a smart operator. Would he really leave a resignation letter in his office or somewhere around that somebody could potentially find it? That does raise eyebrows.
There will be many people listening, Sheila, who say they couldn't care less about what happens to Robert Jenrick or indeed to Kemi Badenoch or the Conservative Party. But I think it is undeniable, whether you care or not, that it is a big, big moment for the right of British politics. And it's a big moment, I think, for two reasons. And one is personal, to do with Badenoch and her leadership, and the second is structural. The first one, with regards to Badenoch, is that clearly this is a sort of a sign of both strength and weakness for her. In the sense that she would not, I think, have been doing this or able to do this, even maybe just a few months ago. She has managed to extend her command of the Conservative Party in that time, partly because of it's not absolutely comprehensive. It's not any great shakes, really. It's a few points, but some signs of positive improvement in the polls, closing the gap between them and Reform. Some more significant signs of personal improvement in her personal performance in the House of Commons and so on, and sharpening her critique on the government. And thereby she finds herself at the strongest moment of her leadership so far. And she has chosen, although I think she has really in many ways no choice, as a fait accompli, as soon as she found out about this, assuming it is true.
She couldn't sit tight, could she?
She has chosen to make a moment of crisis into a moment of opportunity for herself to consolidate that grip within the Conservative Party. She has removed at a stroke, and apparently with good reason, the sole, serious, credible heir pretender to the Conservative throne, to her seat as leader of the Conservative Party. But it's also in one sense a sign of weakness, in the sense that the very fact that Jenrick was considering making this move in the first place, and the fact that others have and appear to be considering to do so, does still tell you that the Conservative Party's performance, though somewhat improved, remains deeply frail. And this brings me to the second reason why I think it's significant, the structural reason. There has been and will continue to be not just a personal battle between people on who speaks on behalf of the Conservative Party, i.e. for the Tory Party leadership. But there is a structural battle going on as to who speaks for the right of British politics. Is it the Conservative Party? Is it Reform?
And on that note, I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK. All right. He hasn't changed his mind, has he? We can't find him. Is he coming, Nick? It's been a funny old... This would be a very funny end of the day, wouldn't it? Here he is, Robert Jenrick.
As a staunch Reform supporter, I've got to say, Tom, that this defection from Robert Jenrick is a game changer, because not only have we welcomed one of the most powerful and influential political speakers and communicators in Parliament, but we have answered one of the biggest and potentially most fairest criticisms of Reform, which is that they don't have any experience of government. Well, we do now.
But the experience of government is one that Robert Jenrick said has left the country about to go to the dogs. Why is that the experience that Reform wants?
Because we've had former Conservative ministers like Robert Jenrick who were Conservative in a party and a government that wasn't Conservative. You've got people that believed in low taxes and low immigration that were in a government that forced through high taxes and high immigration. So, and this was, Tom, something that was felt by a lot of former Conservative voters like myself who felt totally and utterly betrayed by 14 years of Conservative government.
So I am a member of the Conservative Party. I'm 17 and I've been part of it for around 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And I would say that Jenrick's defection is an absolutely wonderful thing. So he's always been quite slimy, a bit of an opportunist and a careerist. And along with everyone else who's going, it's only making the Tory Party more credible and is likely to show us that we are ready for office again.
Hania, I hate to instill such cynicism in one so young. If you were looking for opportunistic, careerist, oily people, politics is where I'm afraid you'd find quite a lot of them. Isn't that the description of quite a lot of people in that industry?
It has been, yes, but there always are some politicians who have kept their morals throughout their time there. For example, Jeremy Hunt and James Cleverly seem to be prominent people who come to mind.
Are they some of the reasons why you, as a young person, have signed up to the Conservative Party? Because there aren't many of you. You must be an audience of one, being under about 50 in some of those Conservative meetings.
That is true. However, there are quite a few of us around the country, and I would say today, generally, in the young Conservative chats in general, the response has been rather positive towards the defection.
All right. Hania, I wish you well. Thank you very much indeed. 17 years old and a member of the Tory Party. I think at the moment, Hania would be odds on to be leading it shortly.
Maybe you don't agree with his views or with his politics, but for the party, for reform as a party, it's going to be very good for him.
Let me read you this from Jenny. Lee, I don't know whether you heard Chris's message earlier. Chris is saying that he's going to leave the country. Jenny says this: I'll be joining Chris in planning my exit. I will be heartbroken if they win. I love this country.
When did he say that?
Who, Chris?
Who are you talking about? You're talking about Chris or Robert Jenrick?
I'm talking about Chris saying he's going to leave the country. I'm saying Jenny is agreeing with Chris that she also is going to leave the country, but I suspect, Lee, you think this is good for the country.
All right, well, don't let the door at your backside when you leave, but what do you want me to do about them leaving the country?
Well, talk to them. Tell them why they shouldn't.
Well, that's just stupidity, isn't it? I mean, so they phoned you up just to tell you that, oh, well, if reform get in, I'm going to leave the country. OK, bye then. I don't understand your point, so I don't know what you're trying to quiz me for about someone leaving the country.
Well, presumably you think this is a good thing, and I'm guessing, sir, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that you might be persuaded to vote reform. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, OK.
I'd say you're right, yeah.
So try and explain how you see things differently to two people who say that they are going to leave the country if the thing you want to happen happens.
Well, that's up to them. I felt like leaving the country when Labour get in. I've not gone yet, but it was like, well, hopefully reform get in. But, we could all say that, couldn't we? Because we don't agree with what political party got in. Well, if Keir Starmer gets another term, so say if he gets in for another 5 years, well, I'll tell you now, Tom, I'll definitely be leaving. Is that going to make anyone sorry for me? That's just a stupid thing to come out with. That's just like, well, no, go to the polling booth, put your X in the box, because most people don't.
Stroppy, rude, entitled. I've never liked what I've seen and heard of Kemi Badenoch, and so tonight I say this through gritted teeth and with some reluctance. The Tory leader has done really well today, and she is on course to save the Conservative Party. It wasn't just the way she kneecapped her old rival Robert Jenrick for the crime of planning to defect to reform, a crime he later performed in public at an hilariously pantomime moment press conference. In truth, by stripping him of his party membership, she'd left him no other choice. But is this the splintering away of one hugely ambitious individual, or is it the beginning of a more general crumbling of right-wing Tories towards Nigel Farage, as he suggested tonight? Let's begin by reminding ourselves of Badenoch's bombshell video this morning.
I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues. Conservatives suffered a heavy defeat in 2024. That was painful, but we are rebuilding, with strong principles, clear plans, and with a serious team united around a shared purpose. When individuals choose to walk away from that effort for personal ambition, that tells you nothing about the Conservative Party and everything you need to know about them.
But tonight shouldn't just be about the refreshing brutality of her sacking technique. By putting in more impressive performances in the Commons and starting to flesh out some more popular policies on tax, social media and policing, Badenoch seems to have put a floor on the downward descent of her party. Tories in the Commons behind her no longer look bored and beaten when she speaks. Remember, Nigel Farage's narrative is of the Conservatives completely collapsing.
This is the latest Christmas present I've ever had. The negotiations with Jenrick are over. There's nothing more to be said or to be done. You've handed me on a plate the man that is by far the most popular figure, 60% approval rating on Con Home compared to our own 38. And you've perhaps today really done anything, more than anybody in history, to help realign the centre-right of British politics, which is much needed against a dreadful Labour government and an increasingly worrying extreme left-wing voice in this country. So I can't offer you drinks all round, but I'll buy Kemi lunch next week and say thank you. And on that note, I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK.
The Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, has rightly attacked Labour for hiking taxes to fund more scrounging. But there's just one problem. He was the Cabinet Minister who oversaw the explosion of the welfare bill. And it was him who blocked the reforms that are needed. Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, created the very migration system that enabled 5 million migrants to come here. The greatest failure of any British government in the post-war period.
Kevin, I was watching Robert Jenrick, and I got the impression you weren't terribly surprised by what he'd said.
No, a lot of what he said was the evidence that was given to us last night.
So you saw his speech last night?
A lot of those remarks are word for word from his speech last night.
Were you surprised by what he said? In the sense, an awful lot of what he said, apart from saying that your party was rotten and broken, was what presumably you agree with in terms of the decline of the country, the decline of wages, the problem of immigration.
I'm surprised Rob was taking this view because in the speech that I read, he agrees that him and Kemi agree on a lot. I don't see any policy differences between Kemi Badenoch and Rob Jenrick. So why on earth would you resign on that basis? Kemi's a strong leader. She's authentic. The public recognising that. She's cutting through. We're improving in the polls. All those things. She's one of the most popular leader amongst the leaders of the main parties. And we're the most trusted party on the economy again. So things are going in the right direction. So Rob and Kemi agree on all this stuff. So why on earth would he leave?
Let me throw the question straight back at you. What do you think's going on?
Well, it's personal ambition. Rob never settled with the fact in his own mind that he lost the leadership contest. And I'm afraid, we've tried to hope, over time, as he sees Kemi improving, he can be a member of the team. But ultimately, I think it's about Rob's own personal ambition. There's no other way to explain this.
When you look at the personnel involved, you can look at the guys who are basically the Tories around Boris Johnson, and they're now divided between two parties. You've got, Nadine Dorries, Nadeem Zahawi, and Robert Jenrick now in the Reform boat, and you've got Kemi Badenoch and her team in the other boat. So this makes Reform look rather less like a kind of new gunship for the future and more like a lifeboat for ex-Tories. So I think this will complicate them. If they want to say, look, we hate the establishment, we hate the Uni Party, we are the party of change, they don't look very much like the party of change. They look very much like a whole bunch of recycled ones. But when you're trying to look for the ideological split, though, like what was it that led Robert Jenrick, other than his ambition? What was it that the Conservatives weren't doing that he wanted to do. In his speech, he only mentioned one real point of differentiation. He was saying that he made a speech, quite a controversial one, using very sort of harsh language about immigration, saying we've let in hundreds of thousands of aliens, of people here with medieval values, etc. And he was saying that he got a lot of abuse from other Conservatives, which, by the way, he did. It was I remember people saying at the time to him, look, this is not in the Conservative tradition. Some of them said it wasn't even in the British tradition. But he seems to have taken umbrage, so he tells us that that was his point of political departure.
He's highly ambitious, Tom, and he's quite thin-skinned, as we've just been hearing. And he's now in a party led by another highly ambitious and occasionally slightly thin-skinned man, Nigel Farage. What do you think about the relationship between the two going forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to be obviously very difficult and testy. I think we should entertain the possibility, though, that it could work for reform, not just that it could fail. And it might work in that what Farage has lacked for a long time is a capable administrator. Now, I think a lot of the people that I've spoken to from the Conservative side, I'd like to know what Fraser thinks about this, is that he is quite one-track mind. You know, you give him immigration and he will become obsessed by that, or you give him the economy, or you give him some kind of task and he will go at it. And the question is, can he kind of disentangle and make priorities about what the country needs? But he is a capable administrator. Now, Farage, alongside somebody who could perhaps deliver on some of his agendas, is potentially a transformative combination. Now, of course, it may sort of blow apart, they may come apart at the seams. That is certainly something we should consider. But also, let's think about the other side.
It's funny, he did not have that reputation of shadow cabinet. I mean, for example, he was given the ECHR paper to do. He didn't do that, so Kemi Badenoch had to give it to David Wolfson instead. I don't think he produced any papers. They were asked to do it about a year ago. So he was seen to be somebody who was more interested in creating short-form videos than actually doing policy papers.
Which he did very well, by the way.
There's no doubt. What he's very good at are these little videos. You know, I think somebody should hire him somewhere to be a content creation team. And he has this little team around him. Very hard. Perhaps he would be harder hitting than the Conservatives, fruitier on race and immigration, perhaps, than they would likely to be. But when you look around, they've taken a lot of Tories. And who are the most experienced ones? Nadine Dorries, author of the Online Safety Bill, The Revile. Nadeem Zahawi, Chancellor for almost as short a time as Liz Truss was Prime Minister. And Robert Jenrick, Immigration Minister over a period of not brilliant immigration control.
Let me put you both my little theory, which is that the big picture is that out of this we have a reform party which the Conservatives hope is a flash in the pan, is going to vanish. It's not going to vanish. They've got a huge membership, a lot of money, and some sort of relatively interesting figures at the top. Now, it's not going to go away. And you've got a Conservative Party that Reform think they're going to pulverise into the dust, but partly thanks to Kemi Badenoch, they're not. Kemi Badenoch seems to me to have stopped the decline of the Conservatives, and they are kind of rallying around her in a new way. So you've got two parties at the right. And in the end, however much they may dislike each other and however much the personal relationships may be difficult, they are going to have to do some kind of electoral deal or pact.
What a joyous day it is to see the leader of the Conservative Party showing leadership, taking decisive action against somebody who's been a thorn in her side ever since she has been leader. The man that she beat to be leader, Robert Jenrick, she sacked him this morning from the shadow cabinet. She suspended his Conservative Party membership because she discovered that he was planning to defect to Reform UK. The chief whip, Conservative chief whip, phoned him to tell him this news. And he denied everything and then put the phone down on her. And hey presto, at 4:30, Nigel Farage unveils him as his latest new recruit. Well, a lot to talk about. Do you think Kemi Badenoch did the right thing? Did she actually have any choice? What does it say about her leadership, about her grip on the Conservative Party? But what does it say about him? I'll give you my views on what it says about him in a moment. And pin your ears back, because I can tell you now it won't be pretty. What does it say about Reform UK as well? Because on the face of it, to attract the man who nearly was leader of the Conservative Party is a bit of a coup. But I suspect there'll be a lot of people, a lot of members of Reform UK, who will be thinking, I'm not so sure this was such a good idea, because they're already gaining a reputation as being a retirement home for failed Tory MPs and ministers.